as I read more into it and looked more into it, the story is just so twisted. And I too am happy that Gypsy has been released from prison. Let's go ahead and just dive right in. Okay, so Gypsy Rose grew up with her mother, Deedee Blanchard. And Deedee Blanchard is the victim in this was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. However, this doctor never reported her case to the authorities. In later interviews, he stated his belief that there wasn't enough evidence to act. In 2009, an anonymous report was made to authorities stating that Deedee's accounts of Gypsy's ailments had no medical basis. This resulted in 2 caseworkers visiting their home, but Deedee convinced them that there was nothing wrong. As Gypsy grew older, Deedee began to lie about her age, going so far as to change dates on Gypsy's birth certificate to make her daughter seem younger. But Gypsy was still becoming harder and harder for Deedee to control. In 2011, Gypsy tried to get away from her mother by running away with the man that she'd met at a science fiction convention. But Deedee soon tracked them down via mutual friends. She convinced the man that Gypsy was a minor, though she was actually 19 years old at the time. According to Gypsy, Deedee smashed her computer and physically restrained her to her bed after they returned home. Gypsy said that she would use handcuffs to keep her attached to the bed. Gypsy also had stated that her mother would sometimes hit her and deny her food. Gypsy eventually managed to get back online. When she was 21 years old, she joined a Christian dating site where she met Nicholas Godejohn. He told her that he was psychic, that he had premonitions, and that he was a 500-year-old vampire named Victor. He also said that he had multiple personalities, and some of those personalities were very violent and scary. And he would talk in a very scary voice at times and tell Gypsy how he wanted to harm her in a grave way. But she still wanted to meet him, and she actually did believe everything that he told her. But yeah, she still wanted to meet him because she fell in love with his good side or his good personalities. Also, she did make a point to say that she knew nothing of love and relationships. The only relationship or feeling of love that she ever had was from her abusive, lying mother. So she proposed. She introduced them at a screening of Cinderella. Gypsy wore a princess dress and brought Nick some nice clothes and sent it to him so that he could look nice while meeting her mom. When asked how she was able to pay for things for Nick, she said that she took the money from her mom's money pouch and mailed the cash to Nick. Deedee had no idea Gypsy was planning the entire thing, and when she was there at the screening, she just thought that Nick was a random person at the movie theater that they had just run into. Deedee became super overprotective and jealous when she saw how much attention Gypsy was giving Nicholas. Gypsy said that B word is dead. She later explained that she used that language for the post because she just wanted her mother's body to be found. And to do that, she needed to post something that she knew that her mother's friends would know she would never say. Like, it definitely was not her, that something was very wrong. So, that's what she posted, and she never thought about getting caught for the crime. It never once crossed her mind, but they were seen on camera entering, exiting the hotel, going to the bus station, buying tickets. I mean, there were traces of them, even with credit cards and money, you know. So they made it super easy for police to connect the dots and to find them. It's like after they committed the crime, they just went about their normal lives, like nothing was going to happen to them. After Deedee was unalived, many people who knew Gypsy wondered why she would go so far as to unalive her own mother. Did it make sense to anybody? Since she could actually walk, she simply could have exposed Deedee's lies by just standing up in public, and Gypsy had been conditioned to believe that nobody would believe her. She explained, "I just couldn't jump out of the wheelchair because I was afraid, and I didn't know what my mother would do. I didn't have anyone to trust. She was only with her mom." The fact was that Gypsy had spent her entire life being controlled and monitored by her mother. She wasn't allowed to go to school, though Gypsy was of normal intelligence. Deedee told everyone that her daughter had the mental age of a 7-year-old. When they were out in public, Deedee constantly held Gypsy's hand, squeezing it when she wanted her daughter to be quiet. As Gypsy's medical records documented the abuse she'd been subject to, her lawyer was able to arrange a plea deal for the charges that she faced. In Deedee's death, in 2016, Gypsy pled guilty to second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and her boyfriend was sentenced to life in prison. Gypsy stated that it was only after Deedee's death that she realized the extent of her mother's deception. While Gypsy had known she could walk and eat regular food, she had always believed that she had leukemia. Today, Gypsy is healthy. She also said that she actually enjoyed more freedom in prison than she ever did in her normal life that she shared with Deedee. She also said that Deedee taught her by example how to be a very good liar with no conscience, but that she does not want to be like her mother. She wants to be a good person. When asked if she would have done something different looking back, she said that she wishes that she would have just told her dad, but then even when she spoke to her dad on the phone, her mother would be right next to them listening to the conversation, so she had no private conversations with her father. But then she said at least she could have had the courage to stand up, or, because then maybe her mom would have gone to prison instead of her fate. Gypsy actually ended up getting married when she was in prison about a year ago, and was just released last week. This story is absolutely incredible. I actually didn't know that much about Munchausen by proxy. I think I watched a couple things on it, but this just went beyond. Yeah, the level to which Deedee went to control her daughter and be so committed to this lie, to the extent that she went to, just showed how deep her mental problems were, and the fact that it trapped Gypsy for up until she was about 21, 22 years old, controlling every aspect of her life. It's incredibly sad, the effects that it had, and it is sad that she did die in the way that she did. Obviously, like, we do wish things would have turned out differently. She just would have went to prison, but like Gypsy said, she had no idea how to get away from her mom. She said in an whatever that looks like for her. I'd be very interested to follow her story to see where she ends up in the next few years, and for someone to say that they felt freer in prison